Good morning. Today we'll look at Exodus 13, 14, and 15. Before I begin that, though, it was a good thing as I opened my email this morning and saw that I had received a daily email from Our Daily Bread with daily devotion and the link to the Read the Bible in a Year from Bible Gateway. And I did that, of course, but also yesterday I had followed Our Daily Bread on Facebook. And so then, if you're on Facebook, you can get that daily devotion that way as well. Or you can get it in a print copy as well. That's printed every 3 months that way. 4 times a year they send that out. But it's really nice to be able to get that devotion each morning that way. And I remember growing up, at home, we always got the Christ in Our Home book, the devotion book that was made available by our Saviors in McHenry for families that way. And Our Daily Bread has been around an awfully long time as well. So these daily devotions are really nice. And there's other people that write devotions and things too. And it's encouraging to me to see that Facebook allows all of the daily devotions that there are and everything we can find. Anyway, as we look at chapter 13 today, the Israelites have been given the green light to go. Pharaoh has finally had enough, for a little bit anyway, we know that. And the Israelites get ready to go. And chapter 13 deals mostly with the festival of unleavened bread, the Passover that we would call it. And I talked a little bit about that on Saturday as well. But it was a reminder for 7 days that the Israelites would eat nothing with leaven in it. No yeast that would make the bread rise and things that way, because they needed to be prepared, ready to go. And then on the 7th day, they would have the festival of the unleavened bread. And this was to continue throughout all of time. And it was a time of remembering, when they gather for their festival of unleavened bread, it's a ritual, that they go through with the child, the youngest child, asking questions, and all of it being the remembrance of what God did to the Egyptians, because He favored His people Israel. He had chosen them, and after all of this time of 430 years that they had been in Egypt, not all of those years as slaves, but many, that they were finally set free to go. And in verse 19 of chapter 13, it said, "And Moses took with him the bones of Joseph, who had required a solemn oath of the Israelites, saying, 'God will surely take notice of you, and you must carry my bones when you leave this place.'" So, Joseph had died many years ago, and as we had finished reading Genesis, the last couple verses of Genesis 50, the ending of the book, is when Joseph had his sons and his offspring promise that, when Israelites, when you, my people, when God's chosen people leave, you will take my bones with you. And so here, 300 and some years later, as Moses is leading them out, they take the bones of Joseph because of the requirement, the request of Joseph, but also the honoring of the ancestors that way. It's chapter 14, chapter 13, and the finish of it. As they leave, they set out and they camped at Etham, it says, on the edge of the wilderness. And God set before them this pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And they were always with the people. And as they left then, it comes to the point of, in chapter 14, verse 3, it says, Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, they're wandering aimless. The wilderness is closed in them. And then God says, I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he will pursue them, and I will gain glory for myself. And so when Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, found out that the people, the Israelites, had indeed left, it was, what was I thinking? What was I doing? We've lost all of our workforce. We can't have that. So he takes his chariot and 600 hand-picked chariots with all of the other chariots of Egypt, and they begin to pursue the Israelites. And the Israelites, as they were leaving, God had led them not on the short path past the Philistines, because, it tells us in the Bible that God was afraid that, if the Israelites ended up battling, having a war with these Philistines going through that territory, that they would just return to Egypt. And so he took them on the longer path, although the safer path. And they encamped, as we know in the Bible, that they encamped by the Red Sea, and the Egyptians with all of the chariots came behind them, pursuing them to capture them and take them back again. And rather than that happening, of course, we know that God said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the sea and it will part. It will open. And this is God saving the people. And there are many images and different things today that, have been discovered by satellite photography and things that show the path across the Red Sea where the Israelites did indeed go, and the chariots of the Egyptians, some of the wheels and that are visible there yet after these, 4,000 or 5,000 years. But anyway, they go. The Israelites cross on dry ground, it says in verse 22 of chapter 14. And the waters formed a wall for them on their right and on their left. And I think about that. And in the movie, I remember seeing the movie Moses, and as the Red Sea parts and the waters are there, and you got this wall of water on either side, and it had to be quite intimidating. And just think about driving down some roads in some of these bigger cities where they have those big, tall skyscrapers, and all you see is wall on both sides of you, and the open sky way up above. But, this is water on either side. And what's holding that water apart? The breath of God, the hand of God. And the Israelites passed through. And it says that the Egyptians then, after the Israelites were through, the Egyptians pursued them. And at the morning of the watch, the Lord, in the pillar of fire and cloud, looked down upon the Egyptian army, threw them into a panic, caused the chariot wheels to turn with difficulty. They got bogged down in the mud. They got problems, and they couldn't just go across. And so as the Israelites walked across this Red Sea, the ground was firm underneath their feet, so that the Israelites' feet, and think about that, it wasn't just the people, but their cattle, their sheep, all their livestock went along with. And they crossed over on this dry, firm ground. But God saw fit to cause troubles for the Egyptians as they came along behind. And then after the Israelites were all across, God says to Moses in verse 26 of chapter 14, stretch out your hand so that the waters come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and their chariot drivers. So Moses stretched his hand out, and at dawn the sea returned to its normal depth. And the Egyptians fled before the Lord, and the Lord tossed the Egyptians into the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots. And you think of that, that these Israelites had safely passed through those walls of water. And I just think about how I would have felt walking through that wall of water, and just knowing that, there's a lot of water there. And the Egyptians, same thing. I mean, what would they have thought? What would their animals or horses that were pulling the chariots? I mean, you think of some of those things, but God was protecting his people Israel, leading them, guiding them to the promised land, although we know it took a long time. Chapter 15 that we look at today as well is the Song of Moses, who, as as this miracle has happened, the parting of the Red Sea and the Lord leading, it's Moses' song of praise to God and remembering what God had done for the people. And then verse 18, the Lord will reign forever and ever. And, and it's just, just that reminder of God's power and of all that God had done. And then verse 20, the prophet Miriam, who was Aaron's sister, takes a tambourine, and all of the women go out with tambourines and dancing, and they sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. Horse and rider he has thrown into the sea. And it was a part of the Passover meal to remember that God had passed over all of the Israelites, that there were no firstborn that were killed on that night, and that God led them safely, although that, as I said, a long time of going through into the wilderness. And so the voice of God says to them, if you listen carefully to the voice of God, and you do what is right in your sight, in his sight, give heed to his commandments, I will not bring upon you any of the disasters. And it is, for I am the Lord your God who heals you. So a promise from God to his people that I have chosen you. I will continue to lead and protect you. And that's the same promise he gives us today.